supposed to meet later on today, and his phone has been permanently switched off. We've been trying to get in touch with him. As I said, when I spoke to him on the phone, he was clearly in a state of panic. He felt like his life was threatened, and he was talking about horrific scenes that he heard from his family who are in Libya, and he was saying that his family in Libya, in Tripoli, were being threatened.
So you say that so far he's the only one who's really defected. The others in the Libyan mission in Dhaka are still in place.
That's correct. And actually, one of them, the one is currently in charge of the Libyan embassy here in Bangladesh, is from Gaddafi's village. He's known to be close to the security service, the Libyan security service, and he and two other men have not defected, and they're still in charge of the embassy. Now, you have to bear in mind that there are more than 100,000 Bangladeshi citizens working as unskilled laborers in Tripoli, in Libya, in the city of Benghazi. The embassy here serves to give the visas to many of these migrant workers, and there are still people who come to the embassy to try to get visas to work in Libya.
Okay, Nicholas Hack in Dhaka, thanks for that update. Well, the Libyan embassy in Malaysia has issued a statement condemning the barbaric criminal massacre of protesters. Harry Fawcett has more from Kuala Lumpur.
Far from home, they gathered on the one piece of Libyan territory in Malaysia and staged a peaceful takeover. Peaceful, but fueled by horror at the reports and images coming out of their homeland, and by anger at the man they hold responsible.
You are a butcher, Gaddafi! Get out from Libya! You have, all of you, you have to support the Libyan people! You have to push the United Nations to support Libyan people!
An official portrait of the Libyan leader lay smashed on the ground. His national flag had been replaced with the pre-regime version, which first flew after independence from Italy in 1951. The ambassador released a statement saying he and his staff were with the Libyan people, condemning what he called the barbaric and criminal bloodshed and massacre of innocent civilians.
So it's very clear that the embassy here in Malaysia has completely aligned itself with the protest movement. The people here are hugely angry. They're hearing disturbing stories from the people that they know and love in Tripoli.
Bombings and killing and raping and burning and no mercy, really, really no mercy. It is disgusting. It is disturbing. Our families are there. Our friends are there. They're dying every day, every day. This is the least we can do. We can't contact them. We can't do anything. And it's just really scary, really scary.
Many of the protesters are students in Malaysia on Libyan government scholarships. They say they've felt this way for years, but only now can voice their hatred of the regime.
We felt that before, but we were afraid from, he killed us actually. He killed us. So that by today, actually, we feel we are freedom.
They feel their freedom here. Their repeated calls are for a stronger international response to help secure that same freedom for their friends and families back home. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera, Kuala Lumpur.
Well, Libyans in China have gathered at the embassy in Beijing chanting slogans against the Libyan regime. The demonstration comes 4 days after a top Libyan diplomat resigned from his post at the Libyan mission there. The group included students and some former embassy staff. They chanted slogans against Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi and the violent crackdown on protesters. Hussein Sadiq al-Musrati, who was second secretary in the mission, said he had resigned from, quote, this Hitler embassy. Well, Egypt's military government, meanwhile, says it has reinforced its border with Libya. It also says it will open a crossing on the coastal border to enable the sick and injured to leave. Let's speak to Al Jazeera's Shireen Tadros, who is live for us in Cairo. Shireen, so what is the Egyptian government doing to ensure the safe return of its citizens?
Well, there's a massive evacuation effort now underway. We've heard from the Foreign Ministry just in the last half hour or so, a lot of information coming from there about what they're doing. There seems to be a joint effort by several ministries, including the Defense Ministry, the National Security Agency, and indeed the Foreign Ministry, to try and get the 1.5 million Egyptian nationals which are in Libya out and out safely. So, as you were saying there, the border is being secured by the Egyptian military military. That was done in the past 12 hours or so after news that Libyan officials, Libyan border control guards, have left that border area, and indeed people committees, or what they're calling people committees, are in charge. So the military very worried about the safe passage of nationals coming from that border, the Saloum crossing. Now, as I said, Foreign Ministry has released a statement in the last few minutes, a lot in there. One of the main points that they're making is the difficulty with which they are trying to get permits to land their military planes and commercial planes via Egypt Air in Libya, and to try and evacuate their nationals by air rather than just by land. But we have heard just in the last few minutes one of the officials of the Foreign Ministry on Egyptian television saying that some of these permits have now come through, some of the permits for the military planes, and indeed at least 2 permits for Egypt Air. One of those planes leaving about 10 minutes ago, another one that's been granted permission that will leave in about 9 hours' time from now. All of that flow trying to take Egyptians from Libya, from across cities in that country, back to Egypt.
So concern for the Libyan citizens then in Egypt. What about the security situation at the border itself? I mean, this is certainly something that Egypt doesn't need right now, given that it's seen a regime change in just the last 2 weeks now. How concerned are the Egyptians, Shireen, about the comment made by Saif al-Islam that accused Egypt of being involved in the violence in Libya?
Well, the Foreign Ministry spoke about that as well in no uncertain terms, saying that they're extremely worried and disappointed by that statement. And apart from just securing the border, they're also trying to make sure that there's medical aid for those who are coming out. And we are hearing reports that that border area in the past 24 hours or so has been pretty dangerous for anyone trying to get near it. Now, of course, as those flow of people come in, Egypt faces a huge operation really to try and get people back to Egypt safely. And the Foreign Ministry has gone to great pains to tell Egyptians living in Libya right now and trying to get out that they shouldn't be just heading towards the border area and just heading towards the airport. They need to coordinate with the embassy to make sure there is a way for them to go safely and cross safely, whether by land or air, to Egypt.
Thank you very much for that update. Shireen Tadros reporting there live from Cairo. Now, in the UK, protesters have been demonstrating outside the Libyan embassy in London. One protester against the Gaddafi regime climbed onto the building in London and took down the Libyan flag, as you can see. He replaced it with the pre-Gaddafi era national flag. And it comes as British citizens evacuated from Libya arrive back in the UK.
It's been quite frightening. We've had gunfire in the night. Probably not as bad as the news reports said, but I was very glad to get away, and there's lots of people who haven't got away yet.
And a group of Libyan students in London say their government is threatening to withdraw their financial aid. They say the government told them that their sponsorships would end unless they show support. While Suleiman Al-Brasi is one of those students and part of a group called Libyan Youth for Reform. He joins us live.